I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the Filthy Capitalist option. As Sori says, 125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. 125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and then get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at insori@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go on the Village, Facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener. First song, guys. The name of this song is... the name of the band is Deo-Legio XIII, I think it says. And is there a little blurb to read about Deo?
Okay. So the stream comment is, Mojo put out the idea for a stream of songs based on real life events. Most songs are based on life, relationships, love, war, religion, etc. But some songs are less abstract, more explicit, and focused factually as to real life events. This stream is entitled Songs in the Key of Real Life, a riff off from Stevie Wonder's epic album Songs in the Key of Life. All right, so the first song, Ex Deo. After the end of the Galaic Wars, the Roman Senate refused Caesar his second consulship, ordered him to give up his commands, and demanded he return to Rome. Forced to choose either the end of his political career or civil war, Caesar brought, what do you say, Legio? How do you say that?
Legio.
Thank you, honey. That looks great.
Legion 13.
Can you bring me a knife?
Is what it translates to. Legion 13, yeah.
Okay. Across the Rubicon River and into Italy. If a general entered Italy in command of an army, both the general and his soldiers became outlaws and were automatically condemned to death. Generals were thus obligated to disband their armies before entering Italy. The Legio the 13th remained faithful to Caesar during the resulting civil war between Caesar and the Senate, whose legions were commanded by Pompey. Legio the 13th was active throughout the entire war. By crossing the Rubicon and stating the die is cast, 2 of my favorite idioms came into existence. Oh, okay. Oh, the die is cast. Okay. Oh, crossing the Rubicon, which means no going back, or the die is cast, which is with the roll of the dice, a process occurs of action has been started that cannot be stopped or changed. Okay.
All right,
I love
here
knowing
we go.
where stuff comes from like that.
Ex Deo-Legio XIII. Let's do it. Yeah.
Here we go. Okay. There's the army sound.
All right, they're marching. They're marching.
Watch closely, boy. Our history is made.
So what ended up happening in that war? Do you know? Do you know anything about it?
I mean, I think history pretty much Caesar. They'll know now.
Oh, we're doing.
Yeah, we're just gonna go until people start saying I'm echoey, and then we'll just go to yours.
Okay. I feel like to have that sort of commitment to something or someone, like it seems like they were pretty committed to Caesar.
Yeah.
To go in there and do that, like I don't know. But it also sounded like in the song that they thought it may not go as they hoped.
Well,
Bleeding for our son, our legacy undone.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, I don't think it was like a guaranteed victory. I think, you know, I think he would have been, as Middle Earth says, it was an interesting civil war.
I bet.
That's an interesting way to put it. But that I remember doing this in school.
Doing what?
This whole thing, history-wise.
Oh, really?
And it was interesting because we didn't do it in history class. We actually did it in English Lit.
I was wondering.
So, you know, the play Julius Caesar, and he says, et tu, Brute, blah, blah, blah. So our English teacher actually gave us a history lesson to set the context. So that's where we heard all that.
Oh, okay.
And it was one of those things where the guy was so charismatic as a leader, and he had done so many exploits of bravery that his troops completely fell in love with him, more so
That's what I was thinking.
than the cause itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like he endeared himself so deeply to those people that we got Tony in the house. Gang, gang, gang. Gang, gang, gang. What's up, Tony? Good to see you, buddy. Yeah, he was so loved by those people that
did it.
Well, yeah, and look, they understood that was always a danger, which is why they had that law that a general couldn't bring.
Right, you had to disband your armies before you got there.
Yeah, because they knew it was a danger.
Yeah.
But, you know, Caesar, on top of all that stuff, he had this sort of brazen daring about him that, you know, and he had a vision for what, you know, Rome should look like, and, you know, glory in the culture.
I was going to say the
blah,
glory.
Blah, blah, blah,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And so he completely stole their hearts, and, you know, by the time folks figured out, it was just too late. And it just shows you, it's so fascinating to me, like, how history looks at people. So, like, a guy like Julius Caesar, like, I still would say in the Western world, he's looked upon favorably.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, he's looked upon as a hero of sorts, somebody to be admired. But at the end of the day, he was just a warlord who usurped a bunch of power. I mean, that's really all that it was. So it's weird. There are other warlords that we don't like.
Yeah.
That get portrayed, you know, as bad guys, and you know, it's a strange thing, like how we decide who our historical heroes are and who the monsters are. Like,
yeah,
you know, Hitler is like forever, you know, in infamy. Meanwhile, Genghis Khan, who killed and raped and all this, like he's just looked upon as like a warlord and a very important historical figure, but all the animus and the anger and the never again stuff doesn't get applied to Genghis Khan, but he was a horrible warlord. So it's
and you
just
think that has a
fascinating.
lot to do with how something is publicized?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of factors that go into that. It's just really, really interesting. Caesar was literally a populist versus the Senate elites. Yeah, it just continues to be the same story. You had these elite Senate guys in their togas and shit, and then you had the grunt guys on the battlefield, and Caesar was one of those guys, and he basically led a populist uprising, which is...
Oh, really? Oh, that's who Caesar was?
Yeah.
He was like the leader of the army?
Yeah. Well, you just said the general.
Yeah, I know, but I guess I was picturing, like, you know how what our president is considered the what is the term?
Commander-in-chief.
Yeah, but he doesn't even have to have been ever seen any war. He doesn't have to have seen any of that. You know what I mean? So I guess I just assumed that just because he's the general that he wasn't really seeing it. But it's true. Back then they did fight. So he was the general of the army, and then he was able to take something over because he was the general of the army. And the army went with him.
The army loved him more than they loved the state that they were fighting for.
I guess every time I think of Caesar, I just think of that like leafy thing around his head, and he's wearing like that basically looks like a sheet tied weirdly, interestingly,
toga,
but yeah. So I guess I never picture him to be like a general, like actually fighting.
No, he was, and he fought. Like he didn't hide. I mean,
But there was
fought.
a bunch of Caesars, wasn't there?
He'd been captured, whole 9 yards. Like he.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like dude was a jihadist for sure.
Wasn't there a bunch of Caesars though? Isn't it like pharaohs? There's just a bunch of them.
After him, it was you had. I think it was Tiberius.
Which Caesar are we talking about?
Tiberius was the emperor during the time of Christ. I'm pretty sure. So, it's a fascinating case study in.
I thought it was Julius.
But at the end of the day, the template's always the same. You got the regular people, and regular grunt people are always going to outnumber the elites. That's the entire point of being an elite. The entire point of being elite is that 99% of the people are not in your class. That's the entire point. You're in the 1%. Mm-hmm. Problem is, they control the most power because they have the most capital and position. But if you can find somebody that can whip the common folk up into a frenzy and then follow you, you're always going to win. You see this with Caesar. You see it with Hitler. You see it with... And I am not comparing Trump to Hitler. I'm not doing that because I also think you saw it with Bernie Sanders. Mm-hmm. But you did see it in Trump. I think everybody would agree, no matter what position you fall on, at minimum, the January 6th stuff is that kind of populist influence going to seed or going wrong, right? Or vinegarizing itself, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to be careful with my terminology because I'm afraid of offending Trump supporters. I just don't want people to shut down mentally and not think through the implications is why. So, like, Vape says cult of personality. Mm-hmm. When you mix cult of personality with a large body of people in a transitional time, it can get really, really dangerous. You can also, look, I think Hellenization, the process of Hellenization, the implementation of it was brutal, especially, in the Seleucid or Antiochus and all the rest of it. The imposition of Hellenization was brutal, but at the same time, especially in the Western world, it really set the stage for a lot of the norms that we have today in the Western world, whether it's education, transportation, those types of things. Yeah. And so Alexander's mindset was that this imposition of his culture was good for the world.
Yes.
Because he believed that he had a superior culture. And I think history bears out that he was probably right. I mean, like I said, the implementation of Hellenization, the implementation of the way that it was done was horrible. And obviously it's kind of an ethnocentric thing to do. But if you look at Alexander's contributions to the world, I would say that the world as a whole benefited because of Alexander's reforms. Whereas I don't think the same for Caesar. But I don't see that as this, you know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
But I mean, this is going to sound, wait a minute. What's your point? Are you saying you're looking at it? You just said that a lot of, like, some good came from Hellenization and stuff, like, even though the means of it was really bad.
Not some good, a lot of good.
But wouldn't that be true also of the things that they were doing? I mean, Hitler's always going to be seen as bad. No, like, didn't they find out a lot of things, like, as far as medical stuff goes?
I wouldn't say it's a lot of things. There's human experimentation, stuff like that. What I'm talking
Which obviously
about is,
I disagree 1,000%, but
like highway arteries, things like that. The roads, trade systems, things like that, language, arts, that type of thing. It was a holistic, full-orbed, rearrangement of society
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the goal was to literally rearrange the world. And so
Where Hitler.
but there
it
was
like
and
destruction.
again, Alexander, although he was very ethnocentric, believed that the imposition of his culture onto the world was in the best interest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what Hitler was doing. Hitler was going to build a Third Reich for the Aryan people, and he was a very,
Right.
Whereas Alexander,
His goal wasn't extermination.
if you talk to certain people in our government, there are elements in our government that believe the same thing, that Americanism is best for the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because those people believe that somebody has to be in charge because they're hierarchalists. And so somebody has to be in charge. So they're saying, why not have a benevolent power be in charge over and against, you don't want Russia or China to be, right? Because a world ruled by China, they would, we would say is a horrible world. Whereas a world ruled by America is in the best interest of everybody because we're such good people or whatever.
I used to think that all the time too.
And so when you convince people of that, you can get them to do a whole bunch of crazy shit. And I think Caesar is a perfect example of that. That's why I just think historically Alexander was more successful and I think did more for humanity than Caesar did. Although Caesar probably is more recognizable and more directly influential to Western people, but that's because of its interfacing with Christianity, I think.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
But the Christian church took advantage of all those highways and etc.
Absolutely.
And in the lingua franca, because of the spread of the Greek language and everything like that, you had all these other nations of people that were speaking Greek, similar to how people speak English, which obviously was very convenient for Christianity. So
right.
I think
our writings could just be spread all over the place.
Yeah, I think we would say probably Caesar is more influential because of that. But I think Alexander is probably the closest I could come to a benevolent world dictator, which is obviously a contradiction in terms. Hellenization was so successful, the Romans continue to enforce Hellenization in their eastern provinces. Yeah.
They do?
Yeah. And you can even read in the Bible. I mean, there was a conflict in the early church, was it Acts 7, between the regular Jews and the Hellenized Jews.
Right.
And there was a serious conflict. So yeah, it's a really good song, and it's a really good historical example of how dangerous the cult of personality is. I mean, if you think January 6th was bad, imagine if Trump was coming off the front lines of Afghanistan and fought manfully in Afghanistan and in Iraq and was successful. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine? Like, I'm glad that our president no longer is in the front lines of war. Like, initially I was like, put him in the front lines, we'd have a lot less wars. But now I'm like, we might have a lot less wars, but God almighty, what if one of these guys is a super soldier? And because once you win the hearts of the military, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
It's a real wrap. So
you know what's interesting is, like, the Bible goes out of its way to basically let us know that Jesus was not a cult of personality person. Like, there was nothing really very special about him as far as his
right.
So he didn't gather his following because his personality was magnetic, and it was just the type that kind of just drew people in.
Well, it says that he had no beauty that we should look at him. He didn't have the physical sort of indicators that make popular people generally popular, because generally being a good-looking person generally gives you a certain amount of influence right out the gate. Whereas Muhammad, if you look at Muhammad's descriptions, he was an exceptionally attractive man. Exceptionally attractive man. But I do think Jesus actually, I mean, this is kind of blasphemous to say, but I think it's clear Jesus had a personality cult.
Really?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Look, if you had a guy show up now who could just walk up to people and say, "Follow me," and they leave their businesses behind to follow him, people would say that's a cult. That's a
Oh,
percent.
yeah. I just
people were
assumed
saying-
that was something
people
on another
say
level.
that about me, for God's sake. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I think that you are the type of person that could do that.
Yeah. So I do think.
So you think that
had a
Jesus was
person-
magnetic like that?
Oh, 100%. I think Jesus was very, very.
Thanks,
I
honey.
think yeah, 100%.
Wow.
100%.
I literally always thought it was the opposite, that he wasn't, and that it was just like, obviously something supernatural is happening here because he has no beauty, he's,
Yeah, he absolutely was. Especially when, if you look at the way that he handled people in public. Remember, they said nobody ever spoke like this man.
Right.
He was a massively compelling figure. I would say it was actually based on his personality, mostly, and not on his looks. Again,
No, I never thought it was based
the
on his looks.
emphasis
I didn't
on
think it was
Isaiah
based.
53 is
I didn't think it was based on
physical
his.
appearance.
I didn't think it was based on his personality, though. I just literally thought like there was something so supernatural that was taking place that it is crazy that I mean, for goodness sakes, even if somebody. The most magnetic person, if they came up to me and said, "Come follow me," I'd be like, "I'm not going anywhere." You know what I'm saying? So, to me, that whole interaction just was like, when they said, "Are we supposed to pay our taxes?" and then the fish comes up and they pull the coin out of the fish's mouth. To me, it was just supernatural. Anytime that somebody was like, there was like a spirit thing that was going on.
Yeah, no, in John.
But at the
7,
same time,
when the Pharisees sent the temple guards to arrest Jesus, they couldn't do it, and it wasn't because of any miracle.
Right, it was because the
They said
people.
nobody
Yeah.
ever spoke. No, it wasn't even the people. They said nobody ever spoke like this guy. So they were going in there fully to arrest him.
Yeah.
But he started talking, and he completely mesmerized him. So, yeah,
Well, he was invited to parties too, like.
Jesus was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed person with a six-pack. Machiavelli's The Prince shows Alexander's Hellenization, or forcing their culture another, is better for conquering. Strip their identity from which subdues rebellion. Rome never stuck with it. Yeah. Obviously, I think the excess and all that other stuff did Rome in. And I don't think they ever. I think Vespasian, I think was a Caesar. I think on par with Julius Caesar, as far as his resume, his ability to conquer, the loyalty of the troops. Remember, we were reading Jewish Wars,
Yeah.
and they got the short end of the stick a couple of times. I think it was in one of the Jewish strongholds before 66.
Okay.
There was a Jewish stronghold, and they got surrounded. I think it was actually a classic L-shaped ambush. They got surrounded, and they were pretty much screwed. They were all gonna die, and then instead of doing the little phalanx thing, Vespasian just decided, all right, I'm gonna die or we're gonna kill all of you. So he just went out by himself, and then all the other guys followed him, and that's how they were able to break through and escape. And then it was talking about how Vespasian was going around and encouraging the troops and saying, yeah, we lost a couple guys today, but we're gonna make them pay.
Yeah.
And they showed up again and destroyed the entire place, man, women, everything. So I think Vespasian had probably that level of loyalty and dedication. I mean, after Nero killed himself, Vespasian left the front lines in Jerusalem and went up to gave it to his son Titus, and then marched into Rome and basically took the chair pretty much uncontested. So I think Vespasian was one, but I think those people like that are few and far between. Like military exploits combined with the political skill, that's a very, very difficult thing to pull off. And so thankfully, people like that are once in a generation. Because to Rivers' point, can you imagine if Trump really was genuinely a war hero? No disrespect to John McCain, right? But like John McCain is a hero in sort of like a conciliatory, sense. He was captured.
I know.
He was a POW.
We all know.
So
Trump made us all
Trump,
aware of that.
Right. And so just imagine if you had John Mace Jr., which most people don't. But honestly, like if he said, "Hey, we're gonna take over the country. Like there'd be a time when I'd say, "Yep, whatever you say, Mace, let's do it." I would have done it. I just would have, because that's how much like respect everybody in the community had for that guy.
Yeah.
So it's scary because people believe that they're like mentally tough and that nobody can brainwash them. That shit ain't true. Everybody's susceptible to brainwashing. And here's the other thing. If you're an American, you have been brainwashed. It doesn't matter what side. It doesn't matter what side you think you're on. You've been brainwashed. Trust me. But yeah, very, very fascinating. Yeah, as I was listening to the song, I'm like, who could do this with me? And I'm like, yeah, Mace. Yeah, if John Mace, I absolutely would for sure. But anyway, shout out to the homie. He's a legend.
Definitely that Jesus is a fan of metal music.
Oh.
I have firsthand knowledge, I believe. That
Yeah.
He is. Especially like when you read like the explanation of him and of him, you know, like the tattoo he has on his thigh and like King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Like, okay, if you really have that title and you just like blast it all over your body like that, like that's like, I don't know, pretty cool. Anyway, so I'm giving this one an 8.6.
Yeah, the Alexander movie was such a disappointment to me.
Why?
I saw that movie, I think, the same year I saw Troy.
I liked Troy.
And Troy was a way better movie than Alexander. It was such a disappointing movie. Considering
I don't even remember the other one.
I don't think we ever watched it. All right, what do you get this song?
8.6.
Jesus partying with hoes, drinking wine.
There would have been music playing too.
Yeah, talk to him, brother Vincent. Where you going, Jesus? I'm about to go party with these hoes. Let's go. All right. What do you get this song? Shout out to the hoes.
Babe, for the third time, 8.6.
All right, I'm going to give this one a solid 9. We got way more metal music on the way for you beautiful people. Don't touch that dial. Stay tuned. If you're in regular YouTube world, we will catch you later. If you're in the stream like a good person, we shall continue after this commercial break. Vin out. Go.